Alright, and we are live. Hey everyone, and welcome to Alan's Astro Livestream, where we look for the strange light in strange places. I am Alan, your host. I'm an amateur astrophotographer and a professional photographer and videographer by trade. Digital media producer is what I do. But tonight we are in astrophotography mode. We are going to hopefully live stream a live stack on M78. And let me turn down my background. Check. There we go, that's better. Okay, so we're going to hopefully do a live stack on M78, which is a nebula inside of the Orion constellation. It's a bit of a tricky target. It's kind of faint, but we've got the Hyperstar on the EdgeHD 8, so hopefully that's going to speed up the process a little bit. Our focal ratio is going to be at f1.9, so we'll be doing 30-second exposures, and hopefully the live stack will show up here. And if there's one thing that you can always count on with astrophotography and live streaming together, is some kind of technical difficulty. It took a while to get everything set up tonight. I had to reinstall like half of the programs that I use for live streaming and ASI Air and everything tonight. So it's been a bit of a challenge to get up and running. Let's go to the ASI Air here and see if okay, we are on M78, and let me double check the focus again here. Looks like I need to run another focus routine. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. While that is working, let's see. Since the last live stream that I did, I don't know if you checked in with that, but I was trying to do a live stream on Mars, and for some reason the mount had some kind of like wiggle to it, and I just could not figure it out. I tried resetting everything, went outside and reset the mount, resynced the mount, everything, and I never did really figure out exactly what it was. I even contacted ZWO technical support. They ran me through two different people. The second one, for some reason, never did get back to me. But the only thing I can figure out is that it was just some counterbalance issue. I'm using the AM3 mount, which with the EdgeHD and the Hyperstar and the camera, it's kind of pushing it like right at the limit. So I added another small counterweight, and that seems to have controlled the wiggle. Now, granted, you don't really see it with the Hyperstar because it's only 380 millimeters, but when I was at, let's see, when I was doing the planetary on Mars, I was at not just the native focal length, but I also had a 2x Barlow on there. So 4,064 millimeters, you could definitely see that wiggle pretty easy, which was very, very frustrating because I'd done planetary with that before, and I'd never seen that. So, whether that issue continues, I'm not sure, but I've done a couple of astrophotography sessions since then, and everything seems to be working much better now. So hopefully we'll get a nice crisp image on M78. I just recollimated the Hyperstar last night, and everything was nice and crisp. And I gathered a little bit of data on M78. But for some reason tonight, I'm seeing a little bit of coma on that, which that is really unusual for the Hyperstar. Now, granted, that could also be the the sky conditions tonight, they're kind of wavering in between like average to below average. Speaking of, let's look at astospheric. Let's see what we got here. It keeps changing so fast on astospheric. Okay, let me refresh this. Okay, yeah, it's for some reason it's getting worse tonight. Ah, shucks. So instead of being clear all the way till like 7 a.m., I really only have a window to about 2 a.m. and then there's a little gap. As for now, it's saying transparency and seeing are average. The outside ambient temperature is 28 degrees, that's Fahrenheit, and fortunately the dew point is only about 7 degrees Fahrenheit, so it won't have to turn on the dew heaters for now. There's no wind, which is really good. That's died down from about 5 miles an hour. Okay, let's get back to the ASI air here. Okay, our focus routine is done. So let's see if we can go ahead and start this live stack here. Let me just do a real quick test shot just to check my star shapes. I don't know if you can see the star shapes in here. I think this was only about a 5-second exposure, but for some reason I'm getting like a little bit of coma on here. That's really unusual. Usually, as long as that Hyperstar is collimated properly, it really gives nice round stars. I tell you, I've absolutely fallen in love with that Hyperstar. The amount of detail that you can pull, and even just like 2 hours worth of exposure time is just incredible. I've got like a refractor that's like either f7 or with the reducer, I think it's like f4.8, and even from 4.8, the difference at 1.9 is just incredible. I mean, it's almost like 2 nights difference at least, imaging all night. And for some reason my transfer speeds are really slow tonight. It was like earlier tonight during the test, it was working fantastic, and yeah, I'm still getting some coma. Alright, wow, that's really unusual. But anyway, we're just going to do a quick live stack to see if we can get this nebula to show up, and we'll do 30-second exposures. We won't put a limit on the stack duration. So we'll save that, and we'll go ahead and get started here. I've got the camera cooled to -20 degrees Celsius. The gain is set at 120, which this is the ASI 183 MC Pro, which usually the unity gain is like 111, but I found that I can usually set it on 120 without any issue, and it still looks fine. Guiding is actually pretty good tonight. It's 0.335 right now, so that's good to see. That's one thing with this mount that I've definitely noticed is the more closely pointed towards like the celestial pole I am, it seems like the better that my guiding is. Whenever I flip over towards the south or like towards the meridian, seems like my guiding isn't quite as good. I wonder if if other people have that similar situation. Leave a comment if if that's your experience, or if your guiding is the same if you're pointed, north, south, east, west, if you have like one direction that, might be a little off on guiding in comparison, it'd be interesting to hear if people have similar stations, and also what mount that they're using. So for M78, I'm definitely kind of targeting this a little bit late in the season. Usually, I try to go after targets in Orion like around November, December, and January seems to be like kind of prime because it's so high in the sky. So now it's in the southwest sky, and it's really kind of getting low in the western sky. So I'm kind of pushing it to the limit, and that's another reason why I decided to put on the Hyperstar tonight. Hopefully that will still allow us to get some type of decent stack tonight. All right. So we're loading first image here. Guiding still looks good. And as you can tell, I'm using the ASI Air. I'm running it through BlueStacks, so I can actually use it on my Windows PC. I'm running it on a Windows 11 PC, and for the most part, it runs pretty well. Sometimes, like if you do like a Windows update or something like that, you might have to like reinstall BlueStacks, which can be kind of a pain. But I'm kind of surprised at why this isn't downloading a lot faster, because I was getting like 8 megabytes per second earlier tonight. So I wonder if I switch over to the 5G, if that might make a difference. My studio here is I'm kind of in like a glassed-in porch, and unfortunately it's not heated or air conditioned in here, so I'm having to wear a jacket. But my Wi-Fi router is kind of at the other end of the house, so it's been a bit of a challenge to get a good signal in here. I actually decided to run an Ethernet cable in here, and I actually connect the ASI Air on the telescope with an Ethernet cable, and I tell you, it if I'm just like doing astrophotography from my room, it is just absolutely blazing fast. I mean, there's no latency or anything like that whenever you're running it on Ethernet. And if you haven't tried that on the ASI Air, just give it a try, just to kind of see the difference. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well run Nina, but it is just an extra option on the ASI Air. And I started thinking about that when I started thinking about doing astrophotography from my camper. I've got like a little teardrop camper, and I've done some astrophotography like at the Outer Banks or up in the mountains, while I'm in the camper. And even though you usually don't have like good Ethernet connections or Wi-Fi connections when you're at a campground, usually the ASI Air, the Wi-Fi is plenty strong enough for short distances like that. But my telescope is about, let's see, I'm probably running 280 feet of Cat6 cable all the way out to the front yard to connect it to the ASI Air. So the Wi-Fi will work at that distance, but my download speeds were like 200 kilobytes per second, and that's that just doesn't really cut it. And speaking of not cutting it, it doesn't seem to be giving me the image here. Let me check the station mode. locked up. Oh, lovely. Welcome to astrophotography, right? Where everything always goes as planned. And yeah, it is locked up. All right. I've got a backup here. It is still running. You can also, I'm running it from my tablet over here as well. So let me restart. Let's shut this down. Let's take a look at. Open up Stellarium, and I'll show you what M78 looks like here. Okay, let's type in M78. So this is what M78 looks like. This is on Stellarium. This is like a planetarium type software, and it is in the southwest sky right now. So while we are looking at that, I'm going to restart BlueStacks here. See if I can get the ASI Air up and running. I've still got it running on my tablet, so it is still stacking here. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's get this restarted. BlueStacks is really interesting. You know, Windows 11 was doing this thing where you could actually run Android type devices natively on Windows 11, but apparently they have backed off on that feature, and from what I understand, they're going to cancel that on I think it's March 5th. So you know, if you have been running ASI Air natively on Windows 11, you might want to go ahead and reinstall or install BlueStacks. And let's see, I've run it on BlueStacks 4 and I've run it on BlueStacks 5. BlueStacks 5 seems to be pretty good, aside from tonight. It's given me a little issue, but you know, you've got full functionality except for like a couple of things. Like if you're on a tablet or if you're on your phone, you know, you can zoom in to your image fairly well, but whenever you're running it on the PC, if you double click the screen, you know, it'll zoom in a little bit, but it will not zoom in all the way like it does on a tablet or a phone. So that's one limitation that I've seen on there. Okay, so I've got this back up and running. And okay, so here comes the first image. Double check my guiding again. Okay, so it's doing a dither. Yeah, it's still, it seems like it's still running Yeah, seems like it's still running on Wi-Fi instead of the Ethernet. Starting to speed up a little bit, so we'll see if it's gonna play nice here. On the tablet, I can just start to see a little bit of the nebulosity come out. Hopefully this will work on this PC screen here. Guiding is about 0.52 right now, still not too bad. I might have to enter in the IP address on this again. That's probably what it is. I believe that's what it is, because it's certainly not running on the Ethernet. And let's see, can everyone hear the background music, or is it too low? I had to turn down my speakers in the back so I wouldn't get echo. So I don't know if the music is still, the levels are too high or too low. Wow, I've got some extreme lag on YouTube. It looks like it's still, like, from what I'm seeing on the screen on YouTube, it's still going through the focus routine, which that was like 10 minutes ago. That's really unusual. Okay, let me boost up the background music a little. Check, 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 check. Okay, I think that's better. Alright, and it is absolutely not sending a signal to BlueStacks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to disconnect from the ASI Air on the PC. I mean on the tablet, and then I'm just going to try to enter in the IP address. That is okay. There it goes. That is really odd. All right, so we can see a little bit of nebulosity on the on M78 here. Not really seeing any color come through yet, and that's probably largely due to the filter that I'm using. I'm in Bortle 6 skies here, and the filter that I'm using is the Antlia quad light pollution filter. And for some reason, even though you've got like 4 really distinct bands, and they're like right in the HA, the oxygen, sulfur, and then I think, what is the other one, like maybe H beta or something like that. So there still should be plenty of color data there, but for some reason it just really mutes the color. So whenever I'm you know, in post-processing in PixInsight, I have to go in and really boost up the color saturation for it to look natural. So I was kind of curious about, you know, how it would look on a live stream. I've never live streamed. I don't think I've live streamed a nebula with this filter yet. So it's kind of a test run on this filter. I can see a little bit of color from, I'm guessing that is that Barnard's Loop. I think I see a little bit of the red color from Barnard's Loop. And there's a little bit of blue starting to come through. Let me look on Stellarium again and see if that's, well, shoot, the image on Stellarium doesn't really show Barnard's Loop on there. Zoom out. Okay, yeah, it does, but it's way high. Huh. So that red is just actually part of M78. Let me show you the view on Stellarium again here. This is kind of somewhat how I'm framed up, so you can see like how close that Barnard's Loop comes in from the top there. But I do know that that region, whenever you give it enough exposure time, is just completely flooded with HA all around M78, and of course in the core of M78 you get that really pretty blue oxygen color in there. And if I'm not mistaken, there's some Herbig-Haro objects in M78. I don't know if I've ever captured those. I've probably not put enough exposure time to where you could actually see the Herbig-Haro objects, which the Herbig-Haro objects are essentially they're jets that are coming out of newly formed stars. So whenever you have these dark dust clouds in these nebula, they'll start to the gravity will start to pull them together, and they'll start to form stars. And whenever the star initially ignites, it basically shoots like jets out both of the polar regions of the star. And you know, if you've got a powerful enough telescope and you put enough exposure time on it, you can actually capture some of these jets. And I find that really fascinating. That it's just such a incredible event, you know, that we can see right here from our own backyard. We probably won't be able to see anything like that from a simple live stack. You'd probably have to put in, I'm just estimating for M78, but I mean, you would probably have to put in at least probably 10 to 15 hours of exposure time before you could actually pick up any kind of stellar jets like that. Alright, let's go back to the ASI air. Is that stacked? Okay, so that's 19 stacked images. And I'm starting to see a little bit of color come out and a little bit of some of the nebulosity under that core group of stars, so that's interesting. I probably could have done maybe 45-second exposures with the Hyperstar, but if you can see this image, the exact same image that I'm seeing, I don't know how well this shows up, you know, on your screen on YouTube, but I can see a little bit of light pollution, you know, so that's the only downside about running the Hyperstar, you know, in an area like, you know, Bortle 5 or Bortle 6 is, you know, if I was in Bortle 1 or 2, I mean, you could probably get away with 3-minute exposures even with the Hyperstar, and man, you could really pull some serious details. Guiding is 0.39, 0.37, 0.28. Guess it's getting ready to do a dither here. So I'm going to go back to Stellarium and just kind of give you an idea about how close in relation to Orion this actually is. Even though M78 is still considered, you know, in the Orion constellation, this will give you a better idea of where we're at in the sky here. So this right here is, you know, M42, the main Orion nebula, and then you've got the Running Man nebula right above it. So M78, at least according to where we're at on time in the night sky tonight, directly above that is the Horsehead Nebula and the Flame Nebula. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. And then right above that is M78. It's also called the Casper the Friendly Ghost Nebula. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not exactly sure why they call this Casper the Friendly Ghost. There's like one little object kind of here to the right that looks like this little ghost figure with like this little arm like waving off to the side, and that's the only thing I can figure why, you know, they would call this Casper the Friendly Ghost. I don't know, maybe somebody can enlighten me in chat about, you know, why this is called the Casper the Friendly Ghost Nebula. But on the bottom side here of M78, you can see these kind of reddish orange areas deep inside these dark dust clouds, and this is actually a star forming region, or one of the star forming regions in M78. And if I'm not mistaken, that's where some of the stellar jets are located. And I was really hoping to get enough exposure time on M78 to eventually capture those stellar jets, but it's so late in the season and our weather has been just absolutely terrible. It's just been either snowing or raining or clouds or just too windy. I mean, for weeks and weeks. There's been a couple of nights here and there where I've had a window of like maybe 3 or 4 hours to do some imaging, but man, this winter has been tough. I know a lot of you can relate to that. It's just been this winter's just been awful for imaging. But we do what we can, right? You know. And like I said, I'm in a Bortle 6 area. I do have access to a good Bortle 4 up in the mountains. I'm located in Greensboro, and we've got a small farm up in Boone, North Carolina, which is Bortle 4 skies. And man, I can see such a huge difference between Bortle 6 and Bortle 4. You know, if I'm going for something really, really faint, I'll have to wait till it's good enough weather up there to I'll drive up there and do my imaging there. it's so strange watching. I'm again looking at the streaming screen on YouTube, and it seems like it's 7 or 8 minutes behind. That's so strange. So let me double check Astrospheric. See if our weather's changing any. Quick refresh. So here you can see where I'm located in North Carolina. Greensboro is kind of like centrally located. It's in what's called the Triad area, right in the center of North Carolina. And up in the mountains here is where our farm is at. Okay, we still got average transparency and average seeing. Temperature is still 28. Dew point is 7 degrees Fahrenheit. So I guess that's one good thing about the weather tonight is the dew point is nowhere near the temperature. And the main reason I say that is because especially with Hyperstar, and I don't know if this is just something that is particular to the EdgeHD series, or if it's with all SCT type telescopes, but whenever you put a one of those dew heater rings on the front of the Celestron SCT and you crank it up more than like say 15%, it can cause like little I guess you would say like star spikes. It almost makes the stars look like they have like a little hat on them, and it took me forever to figure out what was going on. I thought that it was my collimation, and eventually I had a night where I could run it without the dew heaters, and I wasn't seeing those star spikes on there. So I said, okay, that's got to be what's going on. So I did a little research, and sure enough, a lot of people have had that issue with the Hyperstar in the dew heater ring. So just one of the little quirks of running the Hyperstar. There's always some kind of trade-off whenever you've got such awesome speed like that, or even if you've got a huge amount of focal length. Of course, there's going to be trade-offs with that too, because a lot of times that your F ratio starts really climbing. Once it starts going above like F7, you're going to be putting multiple nights in. Right, let's get back to the ASI air. Let's see if we're seeing a little bit more color here. Okay, we've got 27 images stacked, and starting to see some of those H alpha regions stand out on the right side now. So wow, if we kept this going, if we kept this going, this whole screen would, like, the whole circular area around that central core of M78 would all be red from the H alpha, or the hydrogen gas in there. Check the chat here, see if I can get caught up on that. Let's see. So hello to Stan. Thank you for letting me know that my mic levels were good earlier. Hello to Kieran. Hello to Michael Mooney and Phil Bordelon. Phil says, nice tracking. Thank you. That kind of comes and goes, but tonight it's actually doing pretty well. I saw an interesting, I think it was either a live stream or a video where somebody was talking about, the question was, how much does it affect your tracking if your tripod is not totally level? And in my mind, I've always thought that you absolutely had to have that tripod just dead set level to really get your best tracking numbers. And I still think that is the case. But it was Queeve. I think Queeve did a video on that. Queeve the Lazy Geek. If you're not familiar with his channel, he's got an absolutely fantastic astrophotography channel. He's very, very technically minded, and he did this test where he actually propped up one leg of his tripod. I mean, probably about this much, so his level was way off. And he was showing how the guide camera and the guiding software would actually compensate for that, and he was still able to get fairly good guide numbers from that. And that just blew my mind. That kind of threw everything that I knew about leveling the tripod just kind of out the window. But I don't know. I'll still try to keep my tripod as level as possible. And I'm a little OCD when it comes to trying to get the polar alignment, as tight as possible. I've kind of set this thing in my mind that I want to get the polar alignment to like 5 seconds or less, and so my polar alignment will take sometimes quite a bit of time to get that, depending on the conditions. But I don't know. At least in my mind, I think that it helps to to get it as close to zero error as possible. But okay, so we've got 30 images stacked so far. If you notice, in this central, especially in this central region, right around these core groups of stars, you can see these areas where there's just no stars. It's just completely, blank or just black from. There's so much dark dust in there that it just completely blocks out all the stars that are behind that. And isn't that interesting? That I think so many people, when they think about space, they think about just empty space. There's just not a whole lot going on there. And then whenever you show somebody a galaxy or a nebula, just how much material is in these astrophotographs, and you can kind of show them these red areas are the hydrogen gas, and the blue areas or the teal areas are kind of like oxygen gas, and the yellow or red can be sulfur, depending on your processing. But and in these photographs, it looks like there's just tons and tons of material there, and technically speaking there is, but the distances between each individual grain of dust, every speck of dust, might be huge. It's just that our distances from that nebula is so huge that all the dust just lines up that way. But yeah, even from dust grain to dust grain, there's still huge distances. I think I've seen figures where it's still something like 1 part per million, even inside of a nebula like that, depending on where you're at in the nebula. But I don't know. I just find that fascinating that it's not it's not like an optical illusion that we're looking at, but whenever we're looking at photos of space, with really long exposure astrophotography, it just looks like there's just tons and tons of material there. All right, so we got 32 images stacked already. I'm going to bring this back up on my tablet. See if there's any discrepancies in these numbers. It's interesting. And this is kind of playing with fire a little bit whenever you're running your ASI air signal to 2 different screens. because obviously if you're doing some type of input on one screen, it can, you know, confuse the ASI air on the telescope. So you have to always make sure that you're only, you know, putting input in on one screen. And because I have seen where that does mess up the ASI air, I had to completely uninstall and reinstall the ASI air one time because it actually corrupted the memory in the ASI air doing that one time. So I figured, kind of figured out what the issue was, and I learned to only put input in on one screen. Let's see. So Dan Job says, I apologize, you don't have the right filter for this object, UV IR, but rather a multiband filter will be more appropriate. Yeah. Okay, so you might be looking at the stats on my ASI air screen. I probably forgot to update the stats on that, or the equipment information, because I am actually, technically speaking, using a multi-band filter. I'm using a quad band filter, but it does greatly reduce the color saturation on this. And I have done a lot of imaging with just the UV IR filter, and it's you have to have really good sky conditions. You know, if I'm in an area that doesn't have as much light pollution as I have here, I really enjoy using just a UV IR cut filter, or sometimes just no filter at all, and you will get the best results, you know, if you're going without any filter. But really, you know, unless you're in Bortle 4 or less, you really do need some type of light pollution filter. Either that, or you have to kind of reduce your exposure time a little bit. And since I'm already running at 30 seconds with the Hyperstar, I'm really relying heavily on the quad band filter here. And so now what would really help with this quad band is if I was actually running mono, but I'm running a one-shot color on this, so I'm definitely not getting as much signal as I technically could on that. But for live streaming, the one-shot color is, it's obviously kind of the way to go. I've done a little bit of monochrome live streaming, like especially if you're doing the moon or something, and that not really a whole lot of loss there, because you really can't see a whole lot of color in the moon, even with a one-shot color camera. But and it's not to say that monochrome images aren't really beautiful in live streaming, but I definitely trying to show a little bit of the color in the nebula. And man, I wish this was downloading the images a lot faster. I tell you, I always describe astrophotography as it's like the performer on stage trying to spin like a dozen plates all at the same time, and if you don't have every single plate spinning, you're not going to be getting the best image possible. Sometimes you might not even get an image if you don't have all the plates spinning when you're doing astrophotography. And I think it's a good analogy because there's so many variables that you have to work out. It's hard enough just to do astrophotography, but astrophotography and live streaming is a real challenge, and I'm still kind of learning the ropes on that, which is kind of odd, because in my job I do a lot of live streaming for clients, but that might only be like a 3, 4, or 5 camera live stream, and all your cameras are fairly close. You've got either hardwired directly to your live streaming computer, or you've got really good Wi-Fi signals from very close cameras, and so it's much easier than doing astrophotography live streaming. But yeah, still trying to kind of figure this out, work out a lot of bugs. Let's see. Hello to Hein Sherry and Dan Job. Hopefully I can keep up with the if there's any questions coming through. I think that there's still quite a bit of lag, at least from the screen that I'm seeing, but apparently from Dan's last answer there, or last comment, it must not be as much lag as I'm seeing on my screen, so that's a good sign. So is anybody else out there tonight doing any astrophotography? Got your rig up and running? If so, let me know what you're targeting tonight, and that would be interesting to hear. I'm going to look on astronomy tools real quick. Let's switch this over, or not astronomy tools, but Telescopius. If you're an astrophotographer, you're probably familiar with Telescopius. This is a really good resource for picking your particular target, and you can even tell it what area of the sky or what cardinal direction of the sky to look at, or what to exclude. And you can even put in your telescope focal length and things like that, and it'll give you a list of targets that are a good match for your sky region, and your telescope. Let's just kind of see. I won't put in my telescope information, but let's see what would make some good targets tonight. Obviously Orion, but it's going to be dropping below the tree line here very soon. Actually, what time is it? It's 11:04. Yeah, I've only got at most maybe an hour left on M78 here, so we'll definitely wrap up before that. But what other targets? Okay, Bode's Galaxy M81, and so that would also mean the Cigar Galaxy M82 would be a good target. Granted, if you have a northern sky view, you're pretty much you always have those incredible galaxies to image. Pinwheel Galaxy, I'm kind of the same. M101 is also kind of in the northern region there. The Whirlpool Galaxy, also in the northern region. The Rosette, okay. Actually, I just captured the Rosette the other week. I did a review on a new telescope from SV Bony, or Skyway Bony. It was the SV555, which is a 243 millimeter. What is that? F4. What is that? F4.8, I believe, or no, F4.5. And I captured the Rosette, as a test for that telescope, and man, I tell you, I was actually quite impressed with the telescope. The stars were nice and sharp, nice pinpoint stars. The field is what really impressed me. The flat field. Now, I wasn't using a full frame camera at the time, but it actually does provide a flat field for for full frame cameras as well. But man, the stars all the way in the corners looked really good. If you haven't had a chance to see my review on that telescope, check out my my videos, and it was one of the last couple of videos that I did. And one interesting thing about that scope that reminds me a lot of say like the Rokinon camera lenses is that there seems to be kind of like a good copy, bad copy thing going on with it. I've heard some people say, I know Queeve, the Lazy Geek, and Trevor Jones from Astro Backyard, they both said that their copy of the SV555, they had some issues with, for one, not reaching full focus, but they had tiny little star spikes on certain parts of their, I think they're large stars, and on mine, I didn't have that at all. So apparently there's a good copy, bad copy thing going on with those. But yeah, my test image on the rosette, I thought came out really good. It's a great time of the year to capture the rosette. What else would make a good target tonight? Cigar Galaxy, already mentioned that one. So we're definitely entering in what is usually considered, galaxy season, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere here. And for me, this is the most difficult time of the year because I don't have a northwestern view, like pretty much at all. I can go into the backyard and I can set up in the backyard, but I actually have to set up on a pier. I live on a lake, so I have to put the telescope on a pier, and man, there can be zero wind, and I'll still get a little bit of shake from the from the water on the pier. But as long as there's no wind, I can usually pull a fairly decent image, but that is the only way I get a decent northwest view. But over there, I don't have anything in the east. My east view is completely blocked. But in the front yard, I've got a really good east view. I've got a huge tree in the southeast that is kind of this gap that I have. And then my south is nice and clear, southwest is nice and clear, and I get a tiny little bit of the western sky if I put my telescope like at the far end of the yard. I've got like these places in the yard where I'll set up my telescope depending on what sky region that I'm looking at. What else do we have here? Flame Nebula. There's just not a whole lot of nebulas to be had right now during galaxy season. Now M1, there's some possibility on M1 and the tadpoles. I just about went for the tadpoles the other night. The jellyfish is a possibility. And with both of these, if you're not familiar with Telescopius, if you see this this green line in the middle, that's your meridian line, and this red line is the path that the target takes throughout the night. So it'll go up towards zenith, and then it'll come back down, cross the meridian, and then it'll drop below the horizon there. So that'll tell you if you're going to have to do a meridian flip, where your telescope, you have to basically flip it to the opposite side of the mount. That way your telescope doesn't hit the tripod legs. The Cone Nebula is a possibility tonight. That's been a really tough target for me too. The Sunflower Galaxy. That is a really beautiful galaxy. If you haven't seen images of that, if you haven't seen images of the Sunflower Galaxy, look on Astro and just type in Sunflower Galaxy, and you'll probably be impressed with that. It's quite remarkable. The approx galaxy. M94. I think that I've seen that, but and the Black Eye Galaxy is a possibility. The Hamburger Galaxy, obviously. The Hamburger Galaxy is part of that Leo triplet system there. So yeah, the targets are getting kind of few and far between this time of the year. If you, that's one downside of you know, if you're just starting out in astrophotography and you don't really have a telescope with a whole lot of focal length, you know, you're very much limited to. I mean, you can still capture like the Andromeda Galaxy and Triangulum Galaxy and things like that, but for the really distant galaxies, this is a tough time of the year. You know, if you don't have a really powerful telescope. And it looks like we might be entering in the trees on M78 here. What time is it? It's 11:12. Yikes. Thought I would get a little bit more time on M78. Double check that. Yeah. I think we're entering into the trees there. So not quite as much detail on M78 as I was hoping to bring out. Yeah, I can see that my guide scope it's losing the star. Yep, I am in the trees. All right, so we will wrap up this live stream, and what I hope to do is I'm going to take the data that I've got tonight, add it to the a previous night that I've got some data on M78, and hopefully that'll be enough to produce an image, and hopefully on the next live stream I'll be able to show that. Or I'll upload the image on like my Astro bin page. Let's see here. Let me open up Astro bin and just show you my page real quick here. Before I do that, I'll show you my main website. My main website is just called Starpath Images. Let me switch that over so you can see that. So this is my main website, and if you go into the photography samples, you'll see the astrophotography gallery in there. Scroll down and show you that. So I shoot a little bit of everything. Like I said, I'm a professional photographer by trade, so I shoot everything from weddings and modeling portraits and events and real estate and product shots. But here's my astrophotography gallery right here. So hopefully I'll be able to add a M78 image here pretty soon. Let's go back to, all right, here's AstroBin. If you're not familiar with AstroBin, AstroBin is really like the place to go if you're wanting to see high-end astrophotography. You know, say for instance you want to see a really nice image of the Andromeda Galaxy. You just type that in at the top, and you'll get a whole, you know, page after page after page of it's a mixture of professional astrophotographers and amateur astrophotographers, and it's a really good place to say, for instance, if you're looking to get like a new telescope, like your very first telescope. I highly recommend going on AstroBin, typing in, one of the telescopes that you're thinking about getting, and just looking at the images, that people have been able to produce with that particular telescope or lens, and it can help you, with buying choices and things like that. So it's a really, really good resource overall. Let's double check chat here. Phil or Dan says, "Good night, Mr. Howell, and good luck with live. My wife claims me." Ha, okay. Yeah. And Phil Borderline says, "Enjoyed this." Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And please, if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. I hope to do a lot more live streams and be putting out a lot more Astro content here, especially as the weather gets warmer. It's going to be a lot easier to do that. It would be great to see y'all again in chat. And so I guess that will probably wrap us up for tonight. And it's a shame we couldn't get a better image on M78 tonight, but it's we do what we can to get these images. But once again, I appreciate y'all watching, and check back in from time to time and say hello and chat. And thanks again. And this is where we look for that strange light in strange places.